الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخضع لها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء بوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي حات بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء. يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تهتك الإثم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النكم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء. اللهم اغفر للذنوب التي تقطع الرجاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لكل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع متضرع أن تصامحني وترحمني وتجعلني باسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم أسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاقته بأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجة عظم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم أذك سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائه ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مودلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى كديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من كبيه سترت وكم من فادهم من البلايا كلت وكم من إثار وكيت وكم من مكروه دفعت وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرت. اللهم أعظم بلائي وأفرط في سوء حالي وكسرت بأعمالي وقادت بأغلالي وحبسني عن نفعي بعد أملي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومثالي. يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك أن لا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي، ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري، ولا تؤاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرتي وشهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا. إلهي وربي من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين عدوي فأرني بما أهوى وأسعده على ذلك القضاء، فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعد حدودك وخالفت بعد أوامرك، فلك الحمد في جميع ذلك ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك وألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك. وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مكرا مذعنا معترفا، لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة من رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شد وثاقي. يا ربي ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عظمي. يا من بدع خلقي وذكري تربيتي وبري وتغذيتي، هبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي. يا إلهي وسيدي وربي أتراك مؤذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد ما انتوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهجا به لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك، وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك. هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيت أو تبعد من أدنيت أو تشرد من آويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من خفيته أو ورحمته. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي تسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا، على السنن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا وبشكرك مادها، وعلى قلوب قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققة على ضمائر هوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعا، وعلى جوارها سعت إلى أوتان تأبدك طائية، وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنا ما هاك الظن بك، ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم. يا ربي وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها، على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكفوه يسير بقاؤه قصير مدته، فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها، وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مكامه ولا يخفف عن أهله، لأنه لا يكون إلا عن أذبك وانتقامك وسخطك، فهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض. يا سيدي فكيف بي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين. يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي، لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما منها أذج وأبقي، لأليم العذاب وشدتي أم لطول البلاء ومدتي، ولئن سيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك جمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك، فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي، صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك، وهبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك، أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي يفك. وبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناتكا لأزجن إليك بين أهل هذا زيج العاملين، ولا أصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين، ولا أبقين عليك بكاء الفاكدين، ولا أنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين، يا غاية آمال العارفين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين، ويا إله العالمين. أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بخالفتي، وذاقت مع عذابها بمعصيته، وحبس بين أدباكها بجرمه وجريرته، وهو يذج إليك زجيج مؤمل لرحمتك، ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك، ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك. يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك ورأفتك، أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يعمل فضلك ورحمتك أم كيف يحرق ليهها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه أم كيف يشتمل عليه سفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفا أم كيف يتقلقل بين أدباكها وأنت تعلم صدقا أم كيف تزجر زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا رباه أم كيف يرجو فضلك في إتقه منها فتتركه فيها هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما آملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك فباليقين أقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاهدك وقضيت به من إخلاد معانديك لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كان لأحد فيها مكرا ولا مقاما لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين أن تخلد فيها المعاندين وأن تجلى ثناؤك قلت مبتدعا وتولت بالإنعام متكرما أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي هتمتها فحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته وكل قبيح أسررته وكل جهل عملته كتمته أو أعلنته أخفيته أو أظهرته وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جواري وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم وبرحمتك أغفيته وبفضلك سترته وأن توفر هذي من كل خير أنزلت أو إحسان فضلت أو بر نشرت أو رزق بسطت أو ذنب تغفره أو خطاء تستره يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك ورقي يا من بيده ناسيتي يا عليما بذري ومسكنتي يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب أسألك بحقك وقدسك عظمي بصفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي من الليل والنهار بذكرك مأمورة وبخدمتك موصولة وأعمالي عندك مقبولة حتى تكون أعمالي أورادي كلها وردا واحدا وهادي في خدمتك سرمدا يا سيدي يا من إليه مؤولي يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب قوي على خدمتك جواري واشتد على العزيمة جوانه وهب لي الجدة في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرها إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في المبادرين وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين وخافك مخافة الموقنين واجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فأرد ومن كادني فكد واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نسيبا عندك وأقربهم منزلة منك وأخسهم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك وجدني بجودك وعتف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن علي بحسن إجابتك واكلني أثرتي واغفر زلتي فإنك قضيت على عبادك بإبادتك أمرتهم بدعائك وضمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا ربي نصبت وجهي وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي وبعزتك استجب لي دعائي وبلغني منايا ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا اغفر لي لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وسلاه البقام يا سابي النعم يا دافع النكم يا نور المستوحشين في الظلم يا عالم لا يعلم صل على محمد وآله محمد وافعل بي ما أنت أهله وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا.
صل على محمد وآل محمد.
الفاتحة.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا ولي الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله اللهم صل على محمد حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وأن عليا ولي الله عليه الصلاة والسلام حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير نعمل حي على خير نعمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصلي لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع له لمن حمد الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد وأركع وأسجد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربنا. الله أكبر. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع له لمن حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وتقبل شفاعته في أمته وارفع درجته. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد واركع واسجد. استغفر الله من كل ذنب وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سمع له لمن حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله والحمد لله والأسماء الحسنى لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. لا إله إلا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. استغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. استغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. استغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. الله بسم الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We've pretty much finished the discussion on all the aspects of sujood, what is wajib, what is mustahab, and what's makruh. There's one part that we should cover before we go on to tashahhud. So in any rakat where there's no tashahhud, before a person can get up for the next rak'ah, according to most of the contemporary maraji', there's something that has to be done called jilsatul istiraha, which means that after you get up from the second sajda, you have to sit and pause for just like a second, right? To sit, rest, and then you can say bihawlillahi wa quwwatihi aqumu wa aq'ud if you want to, and then you get up. Although we said that part is mustahab, you don't have to say anything at all. But that sitting, that pausing after the second sajda, waiting for just some little pause, is ihtiyat wajib. It's required. I say ihtiyat wajib because if, let's say, you feel like you don't want to follow that, you're welcome to go to another marja and follow their fatwa instead. But pretty much, as far as I know, almost all contemporary maraji have the same ruling that they all say it's ihtiyat wajib to do. There's pretty much no way out of it. Although I don't know why anybody's in a hurry to go from the second sajda all the way straight up. But in the past, the majority of our older ulama, scholars like Alam al-Hilli, for example, they actually considered that pausing before getting up for the next rak'ah, they consider that mustahab. They would emphasize ihtiyat mustahab sometimes, but for our intents and purposes, it is required, right? When you get up from the second sajda, when there's no tashahhud, so for example, in like the first rakat, in a namaz like this, then you pause, and then you get up and you start your second one. Inshallah, when we meet next, we'll start going through the rules of tashahhud. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وأن عليا حجة الله عليه الصلاة والسلام حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير عمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع له لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد وأركع وأسجد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربنا. الله أكبر. يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعن شرف. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع له لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله ما هو. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وتقبل شفاعته وارفع درجته. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد وأركع وأسجد. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سمع له لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد وأركع وأسجد. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع له لمن حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. يا من له الدنيا والآخرة ارحم من ليس له الدنيا والآخرة. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله والحمد لله وخير الأسماء الحسنى كلها لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم ارزقنا. اللهم صل على محمد آل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرج. لا إله إلا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. استغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. استغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. استغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. وصلي على محمد وآله.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sayyid Hasan Rizvi, respected elders, dearest brothers and sisters in Iman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Surah Fatiha is requested for all the names listed on the screen as well as all other marhumin. Al-Fatiha. Dua Shafai Marid is also requested for all the names listed on the screen, as well as all those in need here and elsewhere. Let us recite together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. Ya Allah. Let us now invite Sayyid Hasan Rizvi to please come forward and recite tonight's Majlis. Par Muhammad wa ali Muhammad Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد آل محمد عجل فرجهم. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والحمد لله رب العالمين. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين بالقاسم المصطفى محمد. ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Mu'mineen, mu'minat, brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman, Salamun alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We've been discussing some of the socio-political background of the Arabs at the time of Jahiliyyah, specifically focusing on the nature of tribalism and how these clans and tribes and families were formed, what were the ideas behind them, why did they have these certain spiritual diseases within them. Last time we compared and we talked about how the lack of resources is what pretty much led to the idea of a tribe being needed, being formed. There was no central rule of law because of that, whereas the other empires like the Byzantine Empire, the Sasani, meaning the Iranian Empire, they had central monarchical governments. These Arab tribal families, they're ruled by one individual, this sort of sheikh, and these things kind of pass down. And that we also talked about how the other empires, they would sometimes use other tribes as proxies, especially Arab Christian tribes, but they themselves, they had no interest in actually invading and conquering because they saw no benefit. They saw that there was really, no resources there. There's, these Arabs are just fighting with each other, so they didn't want to go and take over that land. So pretty much internationally, nobody was involved there. So I want to go a bit more into detail about how these kind of tribes and clans were formed and the nature of them. And again, going deeper into some of the issues that are addressed in the Quran that we are going to put into context, inshallah. So keeping in mind that we've already mentioned how difficult life was there, right? In that Arabian Peninsula, scarce resources, access to water was difficult. Not every area had, land that you can graze your animals there. And even the types of animals they had were scarce and far few between. So this is what led to these tribes forming, and then they were constantly fighting one another for these resources, right? So what you see is this idea of wanting and needing to form a tribe We can compare it to, I'm sure if you've maybe seen some of these movies and TV shows, this is the way that you think about and how you see gangs formed in prison or gangs formed in, let's say, a dangerous environment. What's the point of it? The point is, whether it's in prison or in this kind of society, it's a harsh, unforgiving environment. If you go in by yourself, you're done for. You cannot survive by yourself. You'll be taken out. So in prison or in one of these harsh environments, you have to find a group to, protect you. That'll protect your interests, and then you then in turn have to protect theirs as well. This is what tribalism was. They're just gangs. They realize that as individuals, we don't have enough resources to survive, but if we come together, then we can protect one another, we can stand for something known as our clan or our tribe or our family, whatever it is, and that's how we can start protecting ourselves, surviving, thriving, growing, and then controlling others. That's what pretty much happened. So this is where the idea of this groupthink mentality came from. Now, other places, let's say somebody harms me, maybe it doesn't bother you. Okay, somebody offended me, insulted me, you're like, okay, it's bad, but I'm not going to do anything. You might not do anything about it because it doesn't affect you. But if we were in the same tribe, then yeah, that's a big deal. But look, if I have an issue and you're part of my tribe, it's your issue too. Any issue of any member of the tribe becomes the tribe's issue. Someone has an altercation, and we talked about this last time. Even if that person is in the wrong, right? Somebody from our tribe, they go out and they oppress somebody else. Let's just say they go out and they kill somebody from another tribe, intentionally, just feel like it. Whether right or wrong doesn't matter. Hey, that's our tribe's person, we're going to defend them. So if that now enemy tribe comes and says, look, we seek retribution, like fine, we'll just wipe you guys out, whatever. This is the way it was, right? Just kind of this gang tribal fighting. One of the Iranian kings that, I don't think we mentioned one of them, Khusro, there's many Khusros there, but one of the Khusro kings there, one of the Sasani kings, asked the king of Al-Hira at that time. Al-Hira, as we mentioned, this is where Banu Lakham was. Banu Lakham was one of the Arab Christian tribes in the south of Kufa. So one of the king at that time was Nu'man ibn al-Mundhir. And so Khusro of the Sasani, the Iranian, and this head of the Banu Lakham, this king over there, they had constant communication. And this Sasani king, Khusro, would constantly ask about what was going on with the Arabs, right? Because they saw them as, you backwards people, but we're interested. We want to know what's going on with you. What about your culture? In modern day terms, we call this kind of Orientalism, right? This sort of study of looking at the, people in the East as some kind of animals. That's the way that the Iranians back then, right, in this empire, and then the Byzantines did the same thing. So Khusro would, have these communications back and forth with Nu'man. So he asked simply, he's like, Nu'man, why don't you Arabs have a central unified government? Why don't you have a king? And Nu'man, he explained, he said, look, other nations, like the Iranian nation being the Sasani Empire, the Byzantine Empire, any other empire that existed throughout history, what happened was that they realized that our nation, our land, there are some weaknesses. There's some areas that could be penetrated, and enemies could attack us. So what did they do? They just said, hey, we're going to pick one person, or rather one family. We're going to entrust that person, that family with our affairs. We're going to make them a king, a royal bloodline, and then they're going to protect us. They're going to protect our nation and our land. That's what they would do, right? So they passed that on. In a sense, kind of similar to the way that a representative democracy or republic works, right? We give up our right to really get involved directly. America, people call it a democracy. It's more of a representative republic, right? So it's a bit different. We say, look, we don't really have power, but we will elect individuals who will go and handle things on our behalf. We don't vote stuff necessarily. We vote for people who do the voting, right? So a monarchy is that kind of way too, is that, hey, king, we're giving you some level of support. We're electing, we're choosing you or allowing you to continue to exist as long as you come and protect us. And that's what people, that's what they were concerned with back then, is just survival and protection and money and control. That's all they wanted. So Nu'man is saying, look, that's what other nations have decided, is to pick that king, that royal bloodline, that family, and they protect the nation. He said, here's the problem. That's what everybody else does. Arabs, on the other hand, said each of them wants to be a king. Each Arab wants to be a king themselves. So when you have everybody that wants to be a king, then how can you allow the other person to be, in charge of you? They said they wouldn't allow that. They said, okay, so I want to be a king, you want to be a king, we all want to be kings, fine. Then let's form this kind of little tribe where we can gain a little bit of control. We can exert influence and power. If I go and do something, I know that if I, let's say, exert my influence, again, I go and violate somebody's rights or do something, you as my tribe, for that day, basically, for what I did, I'll be the king. You have to do it, you have to defend me. And you, as my tribes member, if you go and do something, I'll come and defend you as well, too. So we'll kind of switch on and off of who is the king and who's not the king. So they all had this ego within them, and they would all kind of trade it back and forth. That's how a tribe was there. That's where this individualistic mentality combined into multiple individuals and turned into tribalism. What really is tribalism? It's a bunch of egos, a bunch of, a single nafs. And what's worse than one single nafs? What's worse than a single nafs that's arrogant, volatile, ignorant, right? What's worse than that? It's two. What's worse than two of those? It's three. What's worse than three? It's having a whole group of them. And this is where many sociologists and philosophers, this is their issue with the idea of democracy itself. They say, look, democracy, or the idea of people voting and having power and this and that, said, hold on, who told you you're king and that you have a right to decide other people's affairs? Right? It's simple math. You take 1 0, no matter how many times you multiply that 0, what value you're going to get? You're going to get 0. And that's why for us as followers of the Ahlul Bayt, we say, look, value only comes from Allah. When Allah designates, selects, appoints, points somebody out, that's where you get that actual value. That's where wilaya stems from. It's the wilaya, the wali, first al-wali is Allah, then He appoints and sends down these anbiya, the mursaleen, the prophet, ending that with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa And of course, as we'll be celebrating in a few short weeks, right, continuing that with Ghadir, saying, look, this wilayah doesn't stop. Allah's message continues on from even the last prophet onto others, because this divine message has to be protected. So here come imams, that we will tell you who are the next ones in line too. And they keep doing that over and over again. And the imams too, they said, okay, our wilayah, even though we are ma'asum, our wilayah is different. We are going to train individuals, our companions, they'll be known as fuqaha, ulama, whatever. They get a part of our wilayah as well too. So when they pass a fatwa or whatever they do, then they have to be followed in that too. So this wilayah has kind of continued on in that same way, right? That's the idea. But they didn't have a concept like this, right? Because they didn't want to give away this power. They wanted to remain kings like that, right? The words that we kind of use, we don't use tribalism today. This idea of groupthink, of everybody was blindly attached to one central idea. We don't use tribalism, but what do we call that? We call that nationalism. We call that patriotism. Fanaticism. These are the words that people use, right? You attack my land or my flag or my country, then doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter why you did it. I'm going to fight you. I'm going to go against you. So people will be blindly patriotic, right? People to this day, for example, will still defend America dropping atomic bombs, right? They're using that now to say this is why it's okay for the Zionists to commit a genocide, right? They're like, well, we dropped bombs, so if they commit a genocide, what's the big deal, right? It's interesting how these sort of moral parallels kind of keep working. But that's the idea, is when you take one nafs, one ego that wants to express itself, then you put them all together, you get a very, very dangerous concoction. Tribalism, egotism, and again, in a modern day sense, that's what democracy looks like. It's a bunch of egos put together, all thinking that they know better than the ones who have been appointed on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The next point we want to focus on is this. Okay, so now let's say we are living back then. We come to, let's say we randomly wander into Arabia back then. We know that, hey, it's dangerous out here. If I'm not part of a tribe, somebody could take my stuff, right? And inshallah, when we get to this point, we'll talk about Hilf al-Fudul and why it was brought up by Rasulullah and some of his other family members, why they created this sort of protection pacts and things like that. Okay, we go there. We have no affiliations, no tribe, nothing. We go there, people can take our stuff, they can kill us, there's nothing we can do. So obviously, the smart thing to do is, okay, can I find a tribe to join, right? Can somebody protect me? Problem is this. If we went to a tribe, now imagine us, we're on the other side, right? We're a tribe, we know each other. Somebody from the outside comes and say, hey, I want to join your tribe. Why would we let that person in? How do we trust them? How do we know that they're not a spy from some other place? How do we know that when they come here, they're actually going to defend us? They're going to stand for our tribal ideas. We don't know that. We can't trust them. So they said, okay, we have to be very selective in who we pick and allow in our tribe. We can't let anybody in. So who can actually be the most trustworthy? Who do we actually know in and out? He said, there is no one closer than blood. So this is why lineage became very important in the that pre-Islamic Jahiliyyah time too. He said, look, when we're raising up these kids and I see my brothers, my sisters, our families, These people we know intimately. We know that they stand for our values. They're not going to go against us. They're not going to betray us. We know that very well. So in almost every single instance, there's a few exceptions, which inshallah we'll talk about in the coming lectures. For the most part, these tribes were what? At the basic building block, they were just families. That's what they were. And they continued with lineages over and over and over again because they didn't want to let any other outsider in, right? Because that's what's most trustworthy. It's blood. And remember, that blood also means that even if my brother or my sister, and we talked about this last night as well too, if even my own brother or sister or parent or child, they do something, they're a zalim, they oppress somebody, doesn't matter, they're my blood. Blood has more value than religion, than rights, and anything else. This was the mindset of them back then, right? So, now, keeping all of this in mind, so my family is what? An extension of my values, right? This family of mine is what? An extension of the tribe too. Right? So we're keeping with all these tribal values. It's me, I raise a family, this family is part of a tribe or a clan. We all have got the same values together. Now, if this is what we're trying to do, we're creating this family, we're creating a tribe, we're trying to protect one another, control resources, go do all this to survive. What do you think in these kind of conditions, where we have competing tribes out there going for the same resources that you and I are going for? What do you think then is going to be more beneficial in how we understand family life? What do you think is actually going to be more helpful to us? Having a son or having a daughter? If I'm out there to survive, I need somebody to go out and fight another tribe. Am I going to expect a daughter to do that? No. My son, who I'm going to train as a warrior, they're going to go and do that. If I need somebody to go and graze the land, do some manual labor, which is required then, is a daughter going to do it? No, I need a son. And again, we haven't talked about it yet. We'll talk about the idea of marriage, inshallah, in the future. When a daughter is there and daughter's in the family, it ends up being a dishonor for that tribe too, because there's money that's exchanged and things like that. We'll talk about the details later on about how mahr and dowries and marriages worked back then. But it actually was something they put the tribe at a disadvantage to have that, right? They would get more power if they had a son that married into another tribe, because then they had influence over that tribe now too, right? They said, hey, one of ours is going over there. And in the future, keep this in mind, because in the future, when we start talking about all these different marriages of Rasulullah after Khadija alayhi salam, after that, it was all tribal. It was all political. That's what it was for. Every single one of them. The only love marriage, if we're going to use that word, was with Bibi Khadija alayhi salam. Everything else had to do with putting these tribes together. But here, let's backtrack. Saying what's more beneficial? Obviously, if I'm sitting there trying to protect myself and others, I want sons. I need sons to go out and defend, to protect our tribe. And if I do that, doesn't that bring me honor as a father? If I can have sons that go and help out the tribe, that's going to give me a lot of honor. They're going to go and collect and protect the tribe. And if I have a lot of sons, it's even better. If in our local tribe, in our clan, everybody else has maybe 1, 2, 3 sons, and I got 10, I brought 10 to the table, I'm going to have some fadila that nobody else has, right? I'm going to have a station and a maqam that nobody else has. And everybody else will be like, yeah, this guy's great. He's the one who's in charge of protecting our family. And I get to wield more influence in my tribe and clan too. Because why? My 10 sons who are with me, if these other people in our tribe, they do something I don't like, hey, my 10 sons are with me. I can send them on you too. Right? So this is a way to exert influence. Now with all of this in mind, go back to the Quran and see how it addresses the Arabs in this time. Let's go to Surah Al-Nahl, Surah 16, ayat 58 through 59. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَإِذَا بُشِّرَ أَحَدُهُمْ بِالْأُنْثَى. Whenever one of them was given good news, as the Quran is putting it, good news of a daughter. That, hey, guess what? Congratulations, you had a daughter. ظَلَّ وَجْهُ مُسْوَدًّا وَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ. Their face, that person, that father, their face became dark, and they had to suppress their grief. Because at one point, when you have a child, there's obviously some happiness, but then you're like, oh, great, I got this burden on me now. How am I going to help the tribe? Everybody in the tribe is going to put me to shame. As ayah 59 says, يَتَوَارَ مِنَ الْقَوْمِ مِنْ سُوءِ مَا بُشِّرَ بِهِ. He hides himself from the people because of this, what he considers a disease and a shame from what's happened to him. أَيُمْسِكُهُ عَلَى هُونَ. Should this person, should I keep this daughter that's not going to benefit? Should I keep it in humiliation? Like, oh, great, I got a daughter. Or, يَدُسُّهُ فِي التُّرَابِ. Or should I just bury it in the ground? What's the point? If this is not going to help the tribe out at all, if this is going to cause me shame, my family shame, my tribe shame, what's the point of this? This is no benefit whatsoever. This is why they were burying them in the ground. أَلَا سَاءَ مَا يَحْكُمُونَ. Without a doubt, it's evil is what they had done. This is their thinking there. Many people would call this rational thinking. They said, look, this is not going to help us out. If we're trying to survive, then how is a daughter going to help me? They're not. And this is what led them to this kind of behavior. Again, we're not justifying it, but we're trying to understand the mentality of why they were doing things like this. And now, when Islam is coming, and Rasulullah is talking about the value, the high value of women, of daughters, and how much of a blessing it is, they're confused. They're like, what are you talking about? We don't get money, we don't get power, we can't win wars and battles. How in the world can daughters be beneficial? It doesn't make sense. They can't understand it. Their mentality doesn't allow for that. Right? So put that mindset in there. Now, also you can understand, what is more beneficial? Having a small family or having a large family? Obviously a larger family is better, especially if it's a bunch of sons. The larger my family, the better, because I have more influence in my clan, my tribe, and I can exert it on others too. There's only so many wives that can be birthed from one wife. So what's better, one wife or multiple? Multiple. Do I need to be locked down in marriage? No. So I'll just go and procreate with whomever, because the more sons I can have, the better. I'll just increase my chances. So they would go and they would procreate with basically anybody and everybody, just so that they can get as many sons as possible. It's just a numbers game for them. Right? Look at what now, keep this in mind, how bad it got. Look at Surah Al-Takathur. Right? Surah 102, ayat 1 through 2. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Al-Hakum al-Takathur. This idea of competing with one another, this rivalry that you have, is what al-hakum. It's diverted you, it's pushed you away. Al-hakum is coming from the word lahu. It's made you think of like foolish things. Hatta zurtumul maqabir. Even to the extent that when you go to the graves, you do the same thing. So what would happen there? Let me share with you, if you can recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. According to some reports, some of these tribes, when they had fought one another, got into such arguments, they said, well, guess what? I brought this many sons. Said, well, I've got this many sons, and they fought this many battles, or we killed this many people. They would argue about these kind of things, right? Because they wanted to exert their influence, they wanted to gain control, power, become the new sheikh, things like that. But at some point, when the argument couldn't be settled, they would take it, rather than take it to the bank, they would take it to the graveyard. They'd go to the qabristan. They say, okay, let's see how many of my family is here and how many of your family is here. They started counting the graves. Said, see, I've got more than you do. So my tribe is superior, my clan is superior, my family is superior. Look at all these, look at all this. This is mine. This is what we've left behind. This is our family lineage. This is the thinking that they have. Now, some of you might be concerned, like, okay, it starts from a point of survival, right? They're just trying to survive. That's why they're doing this. At some point now, they're arguing with one another about it, and they're using it to say that I've got more fadila over you. Again, it's about power. It got to such an extreme, it got mixed, and this is what happens when culture gets mixed with religion, at least for them back then. They start thinking that, hey, if I'm having all of these sons, and these sons are helping the tribe out, that must mean I'm blessed. And where does the blessing come from? They weren't atheists, they believed in God, right? Even though they had all these idols and things, they still believed in a God, a creator. They said, you know what, that means God blessed us. God blessed me as a father, or my tribe and my family, because I'm the one out protecting, and you guys are having a bunch of daughters, you guys are not helping us out. Look at Surah Saba, Surah 34, Ayah 35 to 37. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَقَالُوا نَحْنُ أَكْثَرُ أَمْوَالًا وَأَوْلَادًا. What did people say? They would say, we have more wealth and we have more children. وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمُعَذِّبِينَ. So we're not going to be people that are punished. Right? This is their way of saying, hey, you didn't bring anything to the table. You didn't help out the tribe. You don't have the wealth. You don't have the power. You don't have kids. You don't have a family. You don't have these sons, these warriors. So you're going to be punished by God. We're being blessed. We're doing okay over here. قُلْ إِنَّ رَبِّي يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ. And then, of course, Rasulullah is told to tell them, say that no, Allah is the one who's putting this rizq there. Don't start saying that because you got this much, that means Allah has blessed you. No, rizq is being given out to many for different reasons. Just because you have a lot and have been given a lot doesn't mean you're being blessed. A lot of the times it's the exact opposite. Those who have been given a lot financially, materially, even in terms of family, are the most corrupt and the worst. Right? There are a set of difficulties that those who are in poverty have to deal with, and there are many difficulties that those who are wealthy have to deal with. Right? When someone doesn't have a lot to give, they're less questioned about having to give it away, let's say as khums, zakat, sadaqah, things like that, because they have nothing. Their test is more about sabr. Let me keep my sabr with Allah, right? That Allah is writ my risk, I have to go out and do my work. Sometimes people become lazy because of that. They won't actually go out and earn a living, right? They lose hope in Allah. That's a trial for somebody who is struggling economically. Somebody who's doing very well economically, they think that they're on top of the world, that, yeah, I did this, right? We talked about the story of Qa'ad before, right? He thought the same thing. He was initially with Nabi Musa, and then when the time to pay up, right, the sadaqah, the version of khums that existed, or zakat back then, when it was time to pay up, he said, why would I give it to this guy, this Musa? Like, he doesn't know anything. I'm the one who, accumulated all this money. I know better how to deal with finances. What do these people know? Same way we talk about ulama in Najaf and Qawm, right? Like, what do these guys in the house know about money? Like, I know about money. I'm wealthy. I know about stocks, and these guys don't understand, economics and Keynesian this, and this is the way people talk, right? No different than the way that they were back then too, right? Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We're running short on time, so we'll end it over here. What we'll continue with next week, inshallah, is explaining a bit more about this. The next thing we'll talk about is if family then becomes the central important thing, if lineage and knowing one's family is important, what other things then, what sciences, what disciplines, what type of ilm is going to be important in that society? That's one thing we'll talk about, inshallah, next time. As well as this, when we hear all these terms about Banu Hashim or Banu Umayyah, this word Banu, like, what does that mean? We hear tribe, we hear clan, we hear this idea of ashira, like family, like, what do all these terms mean? Why don't we say Banu Quraysh? Are we supposed to say it like that? So how do we understand how this sort of tribal system, like a family tree, how do we do that? And hopefully we can put up a visual, inshallah, to see how that works. We can move on to our quiz for tonight. If you can recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Let's see, so tonight we have MMJ, Hala Al-Hani, specialists, AG, Kahoot, exclamation point, Sabah, Mandazi, Allu, Z. I don't know if we're going to get many tonight. I think people were scared. I was almost scared away by the rain too. It was a little scary for me. I messaged Samir before I came. I said, are you sure the program's still on? Like, got a tornado warning. He's like, no, it's still on. I said, okay. Specialists, Uno, Panjatan, Hudi Beta, Project Orange, Banu HIC, Janu. Who else did I miss? Iran, Bob the Builder. Very nice. Okay, I think we can get started, inshallah. Boo and MN. Okay, as usual, we've got 4 questions for tonight. Good luck. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The first one. Where is Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam buried? Najaf, Samarra, Kadhimiya, or Kufa? Where is Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam buried? Some most of you know Kadhimiya, right? Alongside his grandfather, Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam. Most of you got that. Kadhimiya obviously is an area within Baghdad. It's a neighborhood in Baghdad. So Halal Hani and first place, Kahoot, MMJ, Banu HIC, still close behind, and specialists also on the board. Okay, number 2. True or false? All pre-Islamic pagan Arabs worship the same idols. Is that true or false? That all of the pre-Islamic pagan Arabs, I'm not talking about the ones that were Christian or Jewish or anything else, the ones that didn't have this thing, did they worship the same idols? All right, most of you know it's false. We talked about it before, that amongst different clans, tribes, and families, they all had a different set of idols sometimes that they would worship. So they didn't even agree on that. The board still remained the same, but what jumped up, Banu HIC jumped up, and Panjatan has made himself, themself, I don't know, sorry, Panjatan, what pronouns you identify with, I can't tell you, right? You're on the board. And up 3 places is Sabah. Okay, number 3. What was one of the main reasons for the initial formation of the tribal way of life? it was a part of their religion, it was passed down by their ancestors, they had limited resources, or all of the above. What was one of the main reasons for the initial formation of the tribal way of life, these tribes, clans, and families? No. See, I tricked you this time. Most of the time, all of the above means all of the above. This time, no. It wasn't this idea. We said that it was because of resources that they had to learn how to come together, right? And then it became a part of their way. It was never really part of their religion or anything like that. It was limited resources. That's what initially caused them to form tribes. Wow. So we got most of you there. I tricked most of you there. Oh, yeah, the board changed. Oh, Banu HIC. The tribe is doing good. Very good. Kahoot, Halal Hani dropped down 2 spots. Banjatan is up. And Sabah now made it to the board. Very good. All right. Last question. This one's going to be a tough one. It's a multi-select. Which of the following is a correct recitation in the adhan? When we say, Ashhadu anna Muhammadun Rasulullah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, Muhammadan Rasulullah, Muhammadar Rasulullah, Muhammadan Rasulillah, and Muhammadar Rasulillah. Yes. There's 6 possibilities. Either one or more of these are correct. And one of these is actually the best way. Yes. So only those 2, Muhammadar Rasulullah or Muhammadar Rasulullah. These are the only 2 ones that are allowed. I've heard a few people here reciting the adhan incorrectly before, right? I've heard some people do Muhammadun. That's incorrect. And Muhammad, I don't want to go into the Arabic details. The best way to do it is, if you're doing it with tajweed, is you would do Muhammadar Rasulullah, right? You want to be able to connect that. And when if you're doing Ashhadu anna Aliyan Waliullah, same thing. It's not Aliyun, it's Aliyan Waliullah or Aliyan Waliullah, right? Okay, now let's see if the board changed at all. So 3rd place, we have Halal Hani. Oh, he lost his 1st place because of the trick question. 2nd place, Kahoot. Let's see, Banu HIC. Yes, Banu HIC in 1st place. I already saw the thing, the silhouette. Congratulations to Banu HIC. Okay, we will see you all inshallah in the next session. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ahli baytihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفة الله، السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله، السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله، السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله، السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله، السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين ولي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى، السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى، السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء، السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا أسار الله وابن ساره والوتر الموتور، وأشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين، فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها، وأشهد أنك من دائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين، وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرزي الزقي الهادي المهدي، وأشهد أن ألمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وعلام الهدى والأروة الوثقى والهجة على أهل الدنيا، وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبيا بكم موقن بشرائع الدين وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها الشهيد وابن الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباءه، السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله وعبداءه، السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الزقي الناصح، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله بأبي أنتم وعمي تبتم وتابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزت فوزا عظيما، فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك ابن السيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما وأقدمهم بإيمانا وأقومهم بدين الله وأهوتهم على الإسلام. أشهد لك نصحت لله ولرسوله والأخيك فنعم الأخ المواسي. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة استهلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام. فنعم الصابر المجاهد المحامي الناس والأخ الدافع عن أخيه المجيب إلى طاعة رب الراغب فيما زهد فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل، وألحقك الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين وعلى 9 المعصوم من ذريتك علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن الحسن أجل الله فرجه وسهل الله مخرج وظهورك. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرزك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على